The bleachers roared. A tidal wave of sound crashing over the field as the final whistle blew. I stood there, heart pounding, sweat dripping down my face, the soccer ball still at my feet. I just scored the winning goal, and the crowd was chanting my name, Elliot. Elliot. Elliot, like I was some kind of hero. But all I could think about was him. Ryan. The boy who'd ripped my heart out 6 months ago. Right in this same stadium. When he told me he was leaving me for Kaylee. The head cheerleader with a smile sharper than a blade. I was nobody back then. Just Elliot Parker. The quiet kid who loved books more than people. Who'd somehow fallen for the golden boy of Westbridge High. Ryan was everything I wasn't: charming. Popular. The quarterback who could make anyone laugh. We'd kept our relationship a secret. Stolen kisses behind the gym. Late-night texts that made my heart race. I thought we were forever. Until he stood me up at homecoming. Left me waiting in a borrowed suit. And I saw him across the dance floor with her. I can't do this anymore. He'd said later, his voice cold. I need someone who fits. Fits. Like I was a puzzle piece he'd forced into the wrong spot. Now, here I was, the unexpected star of the soccer team. The kid nobody saw coming. The crowd's cheers felt like a shield. But my eyes kept darting to the stands, where Ryan sat with Kaylee, his arm around her like nothing had ever happened. I wanted to scream. Instead, I kicked the ball one last time, hard, into the net, and turned away. That's when I saw him. The new guy, Jace Martinez. He'd transferred to Westbridge a month ago. All dark eyes and easy confidence. Like he'd walked out of a movie. He was leaning against the goalpost, watching me with a grin that made my stomach flip. Nice shot. MVP. He called. His voice low and warm, cutting through the noise. I froze. Nobody had ever looked at me like that, like I was worth seeing. I didn't know it then, but Jace was about to change everything. The next morning, I was still buzzing from the game, but the high was fading fast. School was a minefield. Whispers followed me down the halls. Some proud, some cruel. Freak turned hero. One kid muttered, "Still a nobody." Another sneered. Kept my head down, clutching my backpack straps like a lifeline. I wasn't used to being noticed, and I wasn't sure I liked it. Jace found me at my locker, his presence like a sudden burst of sunlight. "You're hard to track down, Parker," he said, leaning against the wall, all casual grace. His leather jacket smelled faintly of cedar, and his smile was trouble in the best way. "Heard you're the guy to beat now." I shrugged, trying to play it cool, but my voice betrayed me. "Just got lucky." "Luck doesn't score a hat trick," he said, raising an eyebrow. "You're good. Own it." I didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever talked to me like that. Like I mattered. Ryan used to say I was cute when I was nervous, but it always felt like a jab. Jace's words felt real. Before I could respond, the bell rang, and he clapped me on the shoulder. "See you at practice, Elliot. Don't hide that fire." Practice was brutal. Coach had us running drills until my legs burned. But I pushed harder than ever. Jace's words echoing in my head. He was on the team too. A midfielder with a knack for stealing the ball and making it look effortless. Every time he passed to me, it was like he was daring me to shine. I did. By the end of practice, we were laughing, breathless, bumping shoulders as we grabbed water. For the first time in months, I felt alive. But then I saw Ryan. He was waiting by the bleachers. Kaylee nowhere in sight. His eyes locked on mine, and my stomach twisted. "Good game last night," he said, his voice softer than I remembered. "You've changed." I wanted to tell him to go to hell. I wanted to ask why he'd hurt me. Instead, I just nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah," I said. "I have." Jace appeared beside me, tossing an arm around my shoulders like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Ready to head out, MVP?" he asked, his tone light but his eyes sharp, like he'd clocked Ryan's game. Ryan's face hardened, and he walked away without another word. "Who was that?" Jace asked as we headed to the parking lot. "Nobody." I lied. But Jace's arm stayed around me, warm and steady, and for the first time, I thought maybe I could let go of Ryan's shadow. Over the next few weeks, Jace became my constant. We'd eat lunch together, trade playlists, and talk about everything his old school in Chicago. My dream of studying literature at NYU. The way small towns like ours could feel like cages. He was out and proud, unafraid of the stares or the whispers. "People talk," he'd say with a shrug. "Let them. They're just jealous they're not living their truth." I envied that. I'd never told anyone about Ryan except my best friend, Mia, who'd held me together when I fell apart. Coming out wasn't easy in Westbridge, where half the town went to church every Sunday and the other half gossiped about it. But Jace made it seem possible. He made me want to be brave. One night, after a late practice, we ended up at the town's old drive-in, now just a field with a crumbling screen. We sat on the hood of his beat-up Jeep, sharing a bag of chips under the stars. "You ever think about getting out of here?" he asked, his voice soft. "All the time," I admitted. "But it's scary. What if I'm not enough out there?" He turned to me, his eyes catching the moonlight. "Elliot, you're enough right here. You just don't see it yet." My heart stuttered. He was so close, his knee brushing mine, his breath warm in the cool night air. I wanted to lean in, to close the gap, but fear held me back. What if I got hurt again? What if Jace was just being nice? Then he reached for my hand, his fingers lacing through mine. "I see you," he said, and it felt like a promise. The school's winter formal was coming up, and the whole town was buzzing. It was Westbridge's big event, a chance to dress up and pretend we were more than a speck on the map. I hadn't planned on going too many memories of last year's disaster, but Jace had other ideas. "Come with me," he said one day at lunch, his grin infectious. "Let's show them how it's done." I laughed, nervous. "You mean, like, together?" "Yeah," he said, like it was obvious. "Unless you're scared." I wasn't scared. I was terrified. But the way he looked at me, like I was someone worth fighting for, made me say yes. The night of the dance, I stood in front of my mirror, tugging at my tie. Mia had helped me pick out a navy suit. Simple but sharp. "You're gonna break hearts," she said, grinning. I hoped she was right. Jace picked me up in his Jeep, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine in a black blazer and a smile that could stop traffic. "Damn, Parker," he said, whistling. "You clean up nice." We walked into the gym, and heads turned. Whispers followed. Some kind, some not. I saw Ryan across the room, his arm around Kaylee. his eyes narrowing as he saw us. My chest tightened, but Jace's hand found mine, grounding me. "Let's dance," he said, pulling me onto the floor. The music was loud, the lights low, and for once, I didn't care who was watching. Jace spun me around, laughing, and I felt free, alive, like I could be anyone I wanted to be. Then the slow song started. Jace pulled me close, his hands on my waist, my arms around his neck. The world shrank to just us, his heartbeat against mine, his breath warm on my cheek. "I'm glad you're here," he whispered. "Me too," I said, and I meant it. But across the room, Ryan was watching, his face unreadable, and I knew this wasn't over. The gym pulsed with music, but Ryan's stare cut through the crowd like a blade. I tried to focus on Jace, on the way his hands felt steady and warm. But Ryan's presence was a weight I couldn't shake. He stood by the punch table, Kaylee clinging to his arm, her laughter loud and fake. I wanted to believe I was over him, but the ache in my chest said otherwise. Jace noticed. His grip on my waist tightened, and he leaned in, his voice low. "You okay, Elliot?" I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just memories." He didn't push, but his eyes searched mine, like he could see every crack Ryan had left behind. "Let's get some air," he said, guiding me toward the exit. The cool night air hit my face, and I breathed deep, trying to steady myself. We sat on the steps outside the gym, the muffled music thumping behind us. Jace didn't say anything, just sat close, his shoulder brushing mine. It was enough. I thought I was done caring. I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. But seeing him, it's like I'm back there, waiting for him to choose me. Jace's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed soft. "He didn't deserve you, Elliot. You're not someone's second choice." I looked at him, his face half lit by the streetlights, and something in me shifted. Ryan had made me feel small, but Jace made me feel seen. I wanted to tell him that, to say something brave, but before I could, headlights flashed across the parking lot. Ryan's truck. He was leaving, Kaylee in the passenger seat, but his eyes met mine through the window, sharp and unreadable. Then he was gone. The next week was a blur of practice, school, and Jace. He had a way of making everything brighter, sneaking me coffee before class, texting me dumb memes at midnight, challenging me to one-on-one soccer matches that always ended in laughter. But the whispers at school were getting louder. Someone had seen us dancing at the formal, and now the rumors were spreading like wildfire. "Elliot's with the new guy," they said. "Guess he's over Ryan." I wasn't sure what I was, but I knew I was happier with Jace than I'd ever been with Ryan. Still, Ryan wouldn't let go. He started showing up where I was outside my English class, at the diner where Mia worked, even at practice, watching from the bleachers. One day, after a grueling scrimmage, he caught me alone in the locker room. I was lacing up my shoes when his shadow fell over me. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low, urgent. I stood, my heart racing. "There's nothing to say, Ryan." He stepped closer, too close. "I messed up. Oh, I see that now. You're different. Better. I want another chance." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "You dumped me for Kaylee. You don't get to just change your mind." It wasn't like that, he said, his eyes pleading. I was confused. I didn't know how to be us in this town. But I'm ready now. I wanted to believe him. A part of me still remembered the boy who'd kissed me under the stars, who'd promised we'd figure it out together. But that boy was gone, and I wasn't the same Elliot anymore. You're too late, I said, and walked away, my hands shaking. Jace was waiting outside, leaning against his Jeep, his grin fading when he saw my face. What happened? He asked. I told him everything. The words spilled out Ryan's betrayal. The pain. The way he was trying to claw his way back into my life. Jace listened, his expression unreadable, until I was done. Then he stepped forward, his hands cupping my face. You don't owe him anything, he said. You're allowed to move on, to be happy. His touch was electric, grounding me in a way I hadn't expected. I leaned into it, my forehead resting against his. I want to, I whispered. With you. He smiled, soft and sure, and kissed me. It was slow at first, tentative, then deeper, like we were both letting go of something. The world faded, the locker room, the town, Ryan's shadow. There was only Jace, his lips warm and certain, his hands steady on my skin. When we pulled back, breathless, he laughed. About time, Parker. The state championship was 2 weeks away, and the whole school was electric with anticipation. We were the underdogs, but with Jace and me leading the team, we had a real shot. Coach pushed us harder than ever, and I threw myself into it, determined to prove I was more than Ryan's ex, more than the quiet kid who'd been invisible for so long. But Ryan wasn't done. He started spreading rumors about me, about Jace, about us. Elliot's just using the new guy to make me jealous. He told anyone who'd listen. He's not even that good at soccer. It's all a show. The words stung, but what hurt more was how some people believed him. I overheard Kaylee in the cafeteria, her voice dripping with venom. He's pathetic. Thinks he's hot stuff now, but he's still a loser. Jace overheard too. He slammed his tray down, ready to march over. But I grabbed his arm. Don't, I said. They're not worth it. They don't get to talk about you like that, he said, his eyes blazing. I know, I said. But I'd rather prove them wrong on the field. He grinned, fierce and proud. That's my MVP. The night before the championship, Jace took me to the drive-in again. We lay on a blanket in the grass, the stars bright above us. You nervous? He asked. Terrified, I admitted. Not just about the game. About everything. What happens after this? If we win? If we lose? If people keep talking? He rolled onto his side, propping himself up on one elbow. Let me tell you something, Elliot. I've moved around a lot. New schools, new towns, new faces. And I've learned one thing. The only thing that matters is who you choose to be. Not what they say. Not what they think. You're brave. And you're kind. And you're one hell of a soccer player. That's enough. I swallowed hard, my chest tight with something bigger than fear. What if I'm not ready to be that guy yet? Then I'll wait, he said simply. But I'm betting you're already him. He kissed me again, slow and soft, and for the first time, I believed I could be enough. Not for Ryan, Not for the town, but for myself. And for Jace. The championship game was chaos. The stands were packed, the air thick with tension, and the score was tied at 1-1 with 10 minutes left. I could feel the weight of every eye on me. The crowd's chants a mix of support and pressure. Ryan was there, of course, sitting with Kaylee, his face a mask of indifference. I didn't care. Not anymore. I had Jace, the team, and a fire in my chest that wouldn't quit. Jace was a whirlwind on the field, stealing the ball, setting up plays, his confidence infectious. He passed to me, and I sprinted, weaving through defenders, my legs burning but my focus razor sharp. The goal was wide open. I took the shot. The ball soared, then dipped, hitting the net with a satisfying thud. The crowd erupted, and Jace tackled me in a hug, both of us laughing, breathless, alive. Nice one, MVP. He shouted over the noise, his grin brighter than the stadium lights. We held the lead, but the other team was relentless, pushing us back in the final minutes. With 30 seconds left, they got a breakaway. I dove, stealing the ball at the last second, and passed it to Jace. He sprinted, dodged a defender, and kicked it back to me. I didn't think I just ran. The goal in sight, the clock ticking down. I shot. The ball sailed past the keeper, and the whistle blew. We'd won. The team swarmed me, shouting, lifting me up. I was laughing, crying, a mess of emotions. Jace was right there, his arm around me, his eyes shining with pride. Told you, he said. You're unstoppable. But the high didn't last. As we left the field, Ryan was waiting by the gate, his face dark. You think this makes you better than me? He said, stepping into my path. You're still the same scared kid. Elliot. Jace is just your rebound. I froze, the words hitting harder than I wanted to admit. Jace stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. Back off, man. He's not yours to mess with anymore. Ryan laughed, cold and sharp. You don't know him like I do. I know enough. Jace shot back. I know he's worth more than you ever gave him credit for. The crowd was watching now. Phones out. Whispers spreading. I felt exposed. But Jace's hand found mine, grounding me. Let's go, he said. And we walked away, leaving Ryan standing there, alone. The aftermath was a storm. Videos of the game and Ryan's outburst spread online. The comments a mix of support and hate. Some called me a hero, others a fraud. Westbridge wasn't ready for two guys holding hands in public. And they let us know it. Graffiti appeared on my locker the next day. Freak. I stared at it, my stomach twisting, until Jace showed up with a can of spray paint. Let's fix this, he said, and we painted over it, turning the word into a mural of stars and soccer balls. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. School became a battleground. Some kids high-fived me in the halls. Others turned away. My English teacher, Ms. Carter, pulled me aside one day. You're doing something brave, Elliot, she said. Not everyone will understand, but that doesn't make it less important. Her words stuck with me, but it was Jace who kept me going. He was there every day, unwavering, whether we were studying in the library or sneaking into the drive-in to stargaze. One night, As we lay on the grass, he turned to me. "You ever think about telling your story?" he asked. "Like, really telling it?" I frowned. "What, like a book?" "Maybe," he said. "Or just being honest. Showing people who you are. Could help someone else feel less alone." I thought about the kid I'd been a year ago. Hiding. Hurting. Thinking I'd never be enough. The idea of being that vulnerable scared me. But it also felt right. "Maybe," I said. "Someday." Spring came. And with it, prom. I hadn't planned on going too many bad memories, but Jace wouldn't let it go. "We're not hiding," he said. "We're gonna walk in there and own it." I was nervous, but I trusted him. We rented Tux Mine Black. His deep green, and Mia helped us with boutonnieres. Grinning like a proud mom. When we walked into the gym, the room went quiet for a moment, then buzzed with whispers. I felt every stare. But Jace's hand in mine was steady, his smile defiant. We danced, laughed, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was fighting to belong. I just did. Halfway through the night, Ryan approached us. I braced myself, expecting another fight, but he looked tired. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low. "For everything. I was wrong." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive him, to let go of the hurt, but another part knew some wounds don't heal overnight. "I hope you figure it out, Ryan," I said finally, "but I'm not waiting for you to." He nodded, his eyes sad, and walked away. Jace squeezed my hand. "You good?" "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. As graduation loomed, I started to think about the future. I'd gotten into NYU, my dream school, and Jace was headed to Chicago for art school. The idea of being apart hurt, but we made a plan: weekend visits, late night calls, summers together. "We'll make it work," Jace said, and I believed him. The night before graduation, we went back to the drive-in, our spot. We lay on the hood of his Jeep, the stars bright above us. "You changed me, Jace," I said, my voice quiet. "I didn't think I could be this person." He turned to me, his eyes soft. "You were always this person, Elliot. I just helped you see it." I kissed him, slow and sure, the world falling away. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was ready. Graduation day was electric. The sun blazed over Westbridge High's football field, where we sat in our caps and gowns, the air thick with promise and nerves. I scanned the crowd, finding my parents, Mia, and Jace's mom, all cheering louder than anyone. Jace was a few rows ahead, his grin visible even from here. When my name was called, Elliot James Parker, I walked across the stage, diploma in hand, feeling like I'd finally claimed something bigger than a piece of paper. After the ceremony, the field turned into a chaotic celebration. Families hugged, cameras flashed, and Jace found me in the crowd, pulling me into a bear hug. "We did it, MVP," he said, his voice warm with pride. I laughed, my heart full, but there was a bittersweet edge. Tomorrow, we'd start packing for our separate paths, to New York, him to Chicago. We'd promised to make it work, but the distance loomed like a shadow. That night, the school hosted a senior bonfire, the flames casting flickering light across the faces of my classmates. Jace and I sat close, sharing a blanket, our hands intertwined. The fire crackled, and the air smelled of smoke and summer. "You nervous about New York?" he asked, his thumb tracing circles on my hand. "A little," I admitted. "It's big. Loud. Nothing like Westbridge." "You'll own it," he said, his eyes steady. "You've got that fire, Elliot. Don't let anyone dim it." I looked at him, his face glowing in the firelight, and felt a surge of gratitude. He'd seen me at my lowest, picked me up when I couldn't stand, and loved me through every doubt. "What about you?" I asked. "Chicago's no small deal." He grinned. "I'm ready, but I'm gonna miss this." "You?" My throat tightened. "We'll be okay, right?" "Better than okay," he said, pulling me closer. "We're unstoppable." The next week was a whirlwind of goodbyes. I hugged Mia so hard she laughed and shoved me away, promising to visit me in New York. My parents, teary-eyed, helped me pack my tiny dorm room essentials. But the hardest goodbye was Jace. We stood in the drive-in field one last time, the stars brighter than ever, the silence heavy with everything we weren't saying. "I wrote something," I said, my voice shaky. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my pocket, something I'd been working on for weeks. "It's not much, but it's for you." He took it, his eyes curious, and read aloud. "To the boy who saw me when I was invisible. You taught me to stand tall, to fight, to love without fear. This isn't the end, it's just the start." His voice broke on the last word, and he looked at me, eyes shining. "Elliot, this is—" "I meant it," I said. "You changed everything." He kissed me, fierce and tender, and for a moment, the world was just us. When we pulled back, he pressed his forehead to mine. "I'm keeping this forever," he said, tucking the paper into his jacket. "And I'm holding you to that start part." New York was overwhelming, a city that never slept, full of noise and possibility. My first semester at NYU was a blur of classes, new friends, and late-night study sessions. But Jace was my constant. We texted every day, called every night, and sent each other care packages, his full of sketches, mine with pages of half-written stories. Every few weeks, one of us would take a train or a bus, and we'd spend weekends exploring each other's cities, stealing kisses in crowded streets, laughing like we had all the time in the world. Back in Westbridge, things were changing too. Mia sent me updates. Ryan had broken up with Kaylee, moved to a new town, started over. The school had a new GSA club. "Inspired," she said, "by me and Jace. You guys were a spark." She wrote, "People are talking, and it's not all bad." One day, in my dorm, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not just for me, but for the kid I'd been, the one who thought he'd never be enough. I wrote about Ryan, the pain, the way it shaped me. I wrote about Jace, the boy who'd shown me what love could be. It wasn't a book yet, just fragments, but it felt like a beginning. A year later, I was back in Westbridge for the holidays, standing on the football field where it all started. The bleachers were empty, the air crisp with winter. Jace was with me, his arm around my shoulders, his breath visible in the cold. "Feels like a lifetime ago," I said, looking at the goalpost where he'd first called me MVP. Yeah, he said, his voice soft. But we're still here. I turned to him, my heart full. I love you, I said. The words easy now. No fear behind them. I love you too, he said, and kissed me, right there in the middle of the field, where everyone could see if they wanted to. Let them watch. Let them talk. We weren't hiding anymore. The stars above us were bright. The future uncertain but ours. I'd been dumped for a cheerleader, but I'd found something better myself. Jace, and a love that didn't need to fit anyone else's mold. I was the MVP now, not just on the field, but in my own story. And as Jace's hand tightened in mine, I knew we'd write the next chapter together.